We are part of UCSD's KP Core Board. We're an outreach program that helps underserved students reach higher education.
We interviewed 4 different college freshmen, each representing their own college system, which are community college, University of California, California State University, and private.
Our goal is to help you navigate what college is best for you and to compare and contrast the different college systems. Enjoy!
Before we start, we just want to introduce our lovely panel.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew Arevalo. I'm a first-year student at San Diego Mesa College, and my major is environmental engineering.
Hi, my name's Santos. I go to UCLA. I'm a first year, and my major is pre-human biology and society with a concentration in medicine and public health.
Hi, my name is Riczon Salazar, and I'm a first-year college student at SDSU, and my major is kinesiology.
Hi, my name is Harmony. I'm a freshman at University of San Diego, and I'm studying economics and marketing and pursuing a minor in peace and social innovation.
So the first question is, why did you choose this type of college?
So the reason why I chose community college or chose going to Mesa College is because of several reasons. The first reason was during junior year, I hit rock bottom, so I lost all of my motivation to do my work. I was depressed and I failed my classes, so my grades began to drop. So I only had a few A's, B's, mostly C's and D's. So when I got my first progress report, I knew I was most likely not going to get into a 4-year university. But I still decided to apply to the UCs, at least thinking that the personal essays would at least help me. But even still, I still got rejected. But a senior year, I still kept moving forward, and I decided to apply to the community college. And I knew that I either wanted to apply to City College or Mesa College, because that's where my brother and sister went to. I took a campus tour at City College through the IMIN program at Morse, and that's how I knew as well. But ultimately, I decided to choose Mesa College because of it's one of the highest transfer rates for community colleges in San Diego. 2, the area and the format of Mesa College compared to City. City is more spread out because it's through downtown, and the area is not as, like, I guess you could say, like, safe. It's kind of shady in some parts in City College, and there's a lot more parking, food places, because like Mesa College is near like Convoy and stuff like that. So, and also because of my sister, and yeah.
Why did I choose this type of college? I'd say it's because I considered going to a community college my senior year, but then my freshman through junior year, I realized that I just tried in high school way too much. For me personally, I felt like going to community college would have been a great option, but it also would have like wasted all the effort I put in during high school to get into a 4-year university. As for a CSU versus like a private college or a UC college, I'd say it's because I got rejected by like 3 CSUs. I think my first rejection was Long Beach, and then I got rejected by the other 4 I applied to, and I only got accepted by SDSU. So there was that. And then for a private, I think that if you definitely asked me a couple years ago, I would have said that I'm gonna apply to a private school like Stanford or Harvard. But like I talked down to myself, and like realistically, I realized that the UC system is like exactly what I need. It's competitive enough, but it's not so high stakes that just going to school would suffer my mental health.
So I chose the CSU because I researched what schools in California had a kinesiology major, and at the top of the list were some CSUs like SDSU and CSU San Marcos. And I also had a fee waiver from Veterans Affairs called CalVet, and it only worked in California. So that's why I wanted to stay in California, and I chose SDSU.
So I chose USC because the only thing that really separates private institutions versus public university is just a matter of funding. But to me, USD had specialization in like specific areas of interest that really stood out to me that no other colleges, particularly like UCs or CSUs, could give. So I'm really interested in social entrepreneurship, which is basically business for good, solving community and social problems through entrepreneurship. And USD is the only undergraduate business school that has a change-making program, also social entrepreneurship, and really advocate for activism in addition to that. So that really stood out to me is because I value like being socially active, but also promoting like solutions and working on solutions in a unified like collective body. And I saw that community at USD. Also, they have strong, inclusive, and diverse communities. So as a student of color who grew up in a low-income community, I can honestly say that I feel seen and heard at USD. I thought that I would feel like really isolated and suffer from like imposter syndrome, but I actually haven't felt that at all at USD. They have a really strong support service for first-generation students and low-income students, and they really provide that safe space. And also, just to give like some quick stats about USD that I think really makes them stand out in the stellar university that they are, is that there's 19 departments with 40 programs, and we're the second best undergraduate business school in all of California, and 92% of the School of Business students are employed within 6 months of graduation.
The second question is, how was your application process?
For the application process to apply to Mesa, pretty simple for me. And I know it's the same for the San Diego Community College. I'm not sure how it works for the other community colleges like Cuyamaca or Grossmont, but it was pretty simple because one, my sister helped me, and two, I'm part of the Promise program at Mesa, and the Promise program is what helps pay students for their first 2 years of college. And so before we graduated from Morse, I applied to the Promise program. All I had to do was to fill out a simple Google form, and the only requirements were to apply for FAFSA and just apply early because there's only a certain amount of spots. I got in over the summer, and over the summer we had to do a 3-day program called Summer Cruise, and we just had to attend workshops about the Promise program, Mesa, and it's also to get to know like other first-year students. Through the Promise program, we have what's called like a mentor. It's called a peer navigator, or like a PN, and for short. And so we can ask them about any questions about college, email them, text them, and also get updates from them.
Realistically speaking, I wasn't that type of student who wrote their essays during the summer of their sophomore year going to junior year. Yeah, I was not that student. I definitely wrote my essays like a week before college applications were due. But you know what? It was okay. Aside from the whole essay writing process, I'd say everything else was just a bunch of like technicalities and gaining information. Definitely try and get your essay like read and edited, but if you can't, it's totally okay, because I didn't, and I submitted my applications a couple minutes before they were due on the last day, but it's okay because I got here where I am today.
My application process was short and simple. It was just filling stuff in the computer, like just stuff about me and my family. There was no essay, and I would just say the hardest part was sending in my scores from College Board.
So my application process was really similar. I think it's not really like longer than others, just because it's the common application. So you just had to do one common app essay up to 650 words, and then 2 college questions that was specific to USD. But there was only like 100 words, and then the second one was 200 words. So it wasn't sad, plus 2 letters of recommendation. And if you're able to time and like pace yourself, you can get it done before the deadline.
Okay, so the third question is, what are your academic experiences so far as a freshman in college?
So for me, my academic experiences in college for now has been pretty good. I would say the workload isn't that bad, but it's because for my situation, I'm taking only 4 classes. So the first 2 weeks of school, I would say were pretty easy, very chill, like the workload wasn't that bad. And then once we hit 3rd and 4th week, everything began to pick up. but I got used to school again after our break. And overall, I'd say the workload is like, and difficulty is like a 5 to 8, depending on the weekend day, depending if we have like a project or essay due. It's been okay because I would say the workload is about the same as like an AP or honors class in high school. Overall, I would say I pretty much had a positive experience, and I think I'm learning a lot.
So I would say that the biggest thing I worried about given like the pandemic would be finding a support system in a completely different place, because even though like I stayed in San Diego, no one here could relate to me in the way that a UCLA student would relate to me, because we're just facing different things, our classes are different. So I think that one of my biggest challenges were finding a community, but on that note, I did find one, and it was actually pretty great because it started out with just this one Filipino organization called Samahang Filipino. But then as it turns out, this community has like 4 different subgroups, and I belong to 2 of them actually, 2 of them right now. And I think that what's so great about them is that they're personalized to the things I need help with. Like one of them is I joined Filipinos for Community Health, and I also joined a retention community program, which really helps me out. Academically speaking, I would say that at first I didn't think 10 weeks was like that big of a deal until I started going through the 10 weeks. And I was like, oh, you're telling me midterms start on the 3rd week of school, and then I have a second one on the 6th week of school, and then a final on the 10th week of school. So I think like just going like how fast it is and how much information you have to digest in such a short amount of time was problematic. But also something very different from what they tell you was that my professors, for me at least, are really understanding, and if you ask for an extension, they'll give you one. And though my one class has like 2 midterms, they're group midterms, so it works out. My classes, if I were to rate them from difficulty, I'd say that every class you take is going to be a hard class. Of course, there's the easy A's, but like realistically speaking, most classes you encounter will be hard in some shape or form. And I'd rate them all about a 7 out of 10, sometimes an 8 when my procrastination takes over. But other than that, it's been pretty good. It's just a lot of time management.
I would say some of it's difficult due to COVID. The content is fairly simple. Like I've learned a lot of it already in high school, so it's just like a refresher. I would rate the difficulty of the stuff like about a 5 to 7 out of 10. And then for the workload, it's just about 1 to 2 hours per week per class, but that's just me. It could range for like from more or less depending on who you are and what your major is.
So I would have to say that having to transition to digital learning in this global pandemic, and it's your first year of college, of course it's going to be very difficult transitioning. So we had a quicker semester this year, so it was a little hard at the beginning to pace myself because it was so rapid. But I was able to have a lot of support from student support services that I'm in, but also the professors at USD are extremely considerate. They're extremely accessible, and they're like super able to make any accommodations that you need. And so some positive experiences that I've had with my academic journey here is that even though the workload is somewhat demanding at times based on like how your grade is structured around in the class, it's really rewarding and challenging at the same time because they actually give you criteria and curriculum that applies to real world situations. So it's easier for me to understand the curriculum because they always provided it with a real world application, and I could see how my learning would transition outside of like the classroom.
The fourth question is, what is the quality of education?
The quality of education that I have, I think it's pretty good. For being able to get like my tuition for free, and the professors, I think that they're pretty good. I think I'm learning a lot. Especially for me, I used Rate My Professor to help pick my professors. to see their background and how easy or hard the class is. But I did take some of the reviews with a grain of salt because some of them can be biased or like incorrect or informal.
One of the biggest shocks I've faced is actually the quality of education, because there's like this idea that your professors are like old white men or really conservative women. And I think I had that like mindset going in that like, oh, my professors are all going to be hard, they're all going to be not understanding, they're not going to get like the newer ideas that students have to give out. But that was completely different. My professors have been very understanding, and the quality of education is way different because during class, at least for my classes, lecture isn't about giving out information. It's about solving the problems together. So before going into class, you would learn like the basics that you need to know, like the basic foundation. But during class, rather than spending time going over that, you actually work through the problems together, and not just like the steps, but like the mindset behind it, like the concepts behind it, which then in turn makes doing tests and quizzes and homework easier because you have an example of how you're supposed to think it through. So I think that style of learning and teaching makes for a great quality of education. The things we're taught, it's also very contemporary. So while we learn about things from like the past and history, they also relate it back to society.
For right now, I'd say the quality is pretty good. Professors are pretty cool. They're understanding. They realize that we're in the middle of a pandemic and that it's hard for everyone right now. They teach really well, but like as it is for everything, like I learn some things and other things just go right over my head.
So the quality of education at University of San Diego is extremely high. In addition to having amazing and distinguished faculty professors, you also have that real-world application that helps you with diverse extracurriculars that enhance your resume, but also like get you where you want to be with your career. They offer so many things ranging from research projects specifically for minority students to minorities in business. It's an extremely transformative educational environment.
The fifth question is, how are your finances currently?
So my finances currently, like I said before, I'm a part of the Promise program. And so the Promise program covers my tuition. My counselor told me that originally classes back then were only like $11 at community college, and now it's up to like $40, $45, which is like, whoa, like it went up like $30. I think it's really good. I don't need to take out any loans. And the only thing I need to pay for is the $2 health fee and for my books and online resources such as like Pearson and stuff like that.
We all know that there's that idea of a broke college student. And well, I can attest to that. I definitely say that tuition speaking, this pandemic helped out for me in that I didn't have to pay for dorming because unfortunately FAFSA did not gift me with anything, and definitely apply to scholarships because those will help you for sure. I definitely give thanks to a lot of the scholarships I applied for. I didn't have to take out any loans, and finding scholarships for me were relatively easy just because, you know, at the end of high school, there were a lot of resources given to us where to find scholarships. And then on top of that, UCLA has its own like scholarship portal that we can search for scholarships from different organizations, alumni, and some of the teachers themselves give out scholarships. And then we also have our own job search where we can find jobs on campus, which ironically doesn't help us now considering we're not on campus. But if we were, then they would definitely help out in finding research opportunities, internship opportunities, and just jobs on campus in general.
I would say they're pretty good because I didn't have to pay anything out of pocket for tuition. FAFSA and my Calvet fee waiver, they took care of everything, books, tuition, everything like that. So I would say I'm doing pretty good right now.
USD is expensive, most private institutions are. However, I actually receive the most financial aid from USD and from private schools than compared to UCs. So honestly, if you're really academically academically motivated and find yourself like being interested in like honors programs and stuff, I really recommend USD because I'm on the college scholarship, which is the highest merit-based scholarship, in addition to income-based grants. So if you're a low-income student, they do provide income-based grants for you. And student support services, like I said, for first-generation students, helps you appeal financial aid if you need more. And it's like almost always like guaranteed if you go through them because they really work with you based on what your situations are. And I think USD is extremely accommodating with finances.
The sixth question is 2 questions. The first one is, what sort of student would succeed here? And the second one is, what sort of student would not be happy here?
So I would say that the students that would succeed here are definitely AP and honors students that took AP and honors in high school. I definitely think they would exceed in community college. I definitely think the workload is really manageable compared to high school because you can pick your own schedule and you can have a range from 4 to 6 classes, and you can choose to do honors, and it can help you stand out when you apply to the UCs or CSUs because it'll have like an honors stamp or like a star saying that you did those classes. But I'm not sure what student would be not happy at Mesa. I think there's plenty of opportunities and resources at Mesa.
What sort of student would succeed here? I definitely have to say that it's not about intelligence. It's not about your grades. It's not about whether you have A's, B's, or C's. It's not about how well you do on a standardized test. Because I would definitely say that obviously having like knowledge and being quote unquote smart is important. But so is the amount of effort that you give in to the work, because I have a lot of classmates now where we'll talk about ourselves in our group chat and then we'll all say that we're smart, we're just really lazy. So like it doesn't matter that you can score a 1600 on an SAT score. What matters is that you can put in the work to try and pass, because at least in my experience, like professors speaking who give out the grades and the TAs who give out the grades, they don't ask us if we've memorized the information. They ask us if we tried to figure out the assignment and really work on it. I'd say that the type of student that would succeed here is just someone who tries and dedicates themselves to the information. Obviously, being quote unquote smart, being intellectual would definitely help you out, but it's also just about the type of effort you put in. And then a student that might not be happy here, if you like very classical, like a very old-fashioned type of learning, and if you're more of a student who likes to work independently and more is focused on reading books and material, then I would say that there's definitely classes like that for you. But being here, for me personally, it's been very team-oriented and goal-oriented. So if you don't like being assigned into groups and working with people towards like a common goal, then try and work on that. But if you're not, then this might not be the best place for you.
So due to COVID, I'm like unsure of how the environment is over there. But for right now, I would say like a determined student who's willing to put in the work would succeed here. So I'm just your average student. Like I'm not all about school, but I also don't slack off as much. And I'm doing pretty well with mostly A's and some B's and C's here and there. For what sort of student would not be happy here, I'll just say the one who procrastinates everything in every assignment and who doesn't turn in their work.
Okay, so the type of student that would excel at USD is someone who is engaged in their community, cares about social problems, academically motivated, but also loves getting to know the people. It's a really small school and you really get submersed in the community. Even though it's online, I feel like really connected. So if you're one of those type of people that get energy from being around others and also enjoy having like the like-minded environment, then you'd really like it here. This intrinsic environment really uplifts students, especially if you're minority and low incomes. However, I would say that it is a predominantly white institution, but most higher education institutions are, so that's not new. You might not feel happy here if you may feel like you're not connected to the support services, because that is the safe space. That's like the hub of where all the first generation students are. But it's not like the support services aren't accessible. It's always accessible to you. So it's just a matter of looking for the resources and getting connected.
For the 7th question, how flexible is your time?
So my time, I think it's pretty flexible. It does depend on your schedule and your classes, if you're working and stuff like that. So in the Promise program, one of the requirements to get your tuition covered and to stay in the program is that you need to at least take 4 or more classes. So that's why I'm taking 4 classes. I feel like my time is really flexible. So my first class is at 9:35 to 11, and then I have a 10-minute break, and then my second class is at 11:10 to 12:35. So I have the whole afternoon to do whatever. So I don't really feel that I have a lot more free time.
Time-wise, I would say that for your first year, if you don't take math or chemistry or just very STEM defined classes, then most classes are only offered on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So for right now, for me personally, I'm taking a class on cellular and molecular biology. I'm taking a class in anthropology, and I'm taking a contemporary Asian American communities class. And all those 3 classes are only offered on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which gives me the rest of the week to do homework, do assignments, and study. And then, given that it is on Zoom, my classes reach from 50 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes at the most. So I'd say that I have a very flexible schedule just because, I know the certain times where I have to be somewhere. So it makes planning my day easier.
So right now my classes are just Monday through Thursday, and they range from 8 to 12, depending on the day. And I have time for work, school, me, friends, and family. So I would say it's pretty flexible.
I'm actually taking the lowest amount of units right now, but because the semester was by a whole month, it is harder. So I go to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:40 p.m. But sometimes it lasts until 5 if I need to ask professors more questions and stuff. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my off days, and from that I'm able to time manage. So honestly, I think it's okay depending on how well your time management skills are. And plus, your first semester in college is usually the hardest, so after this point, it's just going to get easier and transitioning is going to get better.
For the 8th question, what does your college have to offer you?
So at Mesa College, we have very many different programs. With our student health fee, we get access to emotional and mental health services. So we get to see a counselor, a psychologist, and we get to talk to them if we ever need to. We just need to hold or get an appointment. We have, like I said, financial support and financial aid through our Promise program. There's support for sexual harassment and abuse on campus. It's taken very seriously, and there's different ways to report and support students. It surprised me because one of the requirements as a student was to take a short course on sexual harassment and abuse, and it's just to get to know more about ourselves and knowing what's happening about on campus. It's essentially like a consent form, essentially. If we were on campus, we have collegiate sports and we have access to the gym. Lastly, we have very many different clubs. The clubs that I participated in are the Astronomy Club and the Asian Pacific Islander Club, Diversity Club. And from my experiences, they're pretty good, pretty fun.
What does my college have to offer me? Well, for me personally, UCLA has lots of resources. One of them is that we're very big on mental health here, which is why they endorse such programs like CAPS, which help you with your mental health and how you're feeling, lots of counselor type work. But there's also a lot of workshops and programs like the UCLA writing program or the UCLA math tutoring program, where there's specific students designed to help you out with what you need, whether it be in writing or math and even in science. Some of the help that I've seeked out is from SPEAR, which is one of the organizations that Samahang Filipino offers. And through that, you get a mentor who helps you find the groups that you'd be interested in. And also, they have their own specific writing and math program that tutors you and helps you out. For veterans as well, just because I am part of a military family, we do have a lot of veteran resources offered as well. And since some of the students here themselves are actually veterans, so they like to really help that out if they know you are. part of it?
SDSU actually has a lot to offer their students, so I've been contacted by various clubs, and I have some academic advisors, major advisors. I also have mentors. I'm in a commuter program since I'm a commuter. So we meet every week, and she helps me with school registration and classes and just life in general.
Okay, so Student Support Services, as I said, they have a summer program that lets you actually get to move into college early, and you get to meet like all the students there. I think there's over like 400 students, and it's really nice to see people that have similar experiences to you. You won't feel alone, you feel heard, you feel seen. In addition to that, they provide like actual internships and access to all those things that we feel as minority students we might need a little extra help in because it's a predominantly white institution. But besides that, USD offers free mental health counseling, which is huge. And the School of Business has so many entrepreneurial competitions, in addition to like if you want to get connected to internships and resume building workshops. They really work with the students hand in hand. Because it is a smaller university, you get that one-on-one support. But also there's resources if you actually want to launch like an actual company, and USD does provide a lot of things to get funding to fund like companies. So that's really great. And there's also the study abroad programs, and there's so many places you can study abroad with by doing the School of Business at USD, in addition to any other major.
Number 9, how large are your classes relatively?
So for my classes, the class sizes range from 25 to 50, and that's depending on if it's general ed or if it's a specific course or the course that has less budget. And I definitely say it's 25 to 50 probably because we're on Zoom and stuff like that. They probably have to manage the amount of students.
My classes range from about 150 students to 450 students. 450 being my biggest, 150 being my lowest. So the class sizes are definitely huge, but the amazing thing about it is that I'm gonna try to explain this in the best way I can. So take me for example, I have 3 classes. Each lecture is paired with a discussion group of like 25 students. And then, you have those meeting times as well, which really helps because in a class so big, the professor can't focus on you. It's harsh, but it's the truth. The professor, you can email them, but the kind of like one-on-one help you'll need to really like pass, and the one-on-one help that you want, you can get those from your discussion sections, which I think is really cool because not only that, but you get closer to a smaller knit of students, and I think that's really helpful in sort of balancing out the large class sizes that UCLA does have for courses that are, your GEs or your pre-major classes.
So some of my classes are small and others are big. They range from anywhere from 10 to 70 people depending on the class.
My classes are really small. My lowest number of students in class is like 14, and the highest is 30. The ratio with the student and teacher professors is really low because professors are able to know you on a first name basis. You're able to have office hours. They're so easy to get in touch with, and they're really accommodating. So I think that's a really big plus with private university is that it's smaller. Really.
Question 10 is, are you happy/satisfied with your choice?
Yes, I would say that I'm satisfied with my choice because I feel that my workload is good. I'm saving money through the Promise program, and I'm honestly glad I'm at Mesa College and where I am today, because I feel like if I didn't fail my classes or if I didn't do so well, community college was that safe option, that boundary that I could go to. And I definitely feel that I have bounced back from high school, and I feel like I'm doing a lot better, and I feel that I am learning a lot more as well.
I'm very satisfied with my choice. I'd say that at first I was really nervous because, moving to a different city, going to a college system where the norm is 10 weeks per quarter, except for UC Berkeley. They do semester system. But for the others, I think that as you go through with it, you really get used to it. So I'm very satisfied and happy with my choice. I think that for a long time, I tried denying the fact that I wanted to go to UCLA, because I was scared that I wouldn't get accepted, and I was scared that I wouldn't be able to make it here. So I withheld myself from making it my dream school. But then after seeing the acceptance and seeing that I actually got in, and mind you, I was really nervous because my SAT score was a 1240, and yet I still got in, which is why I think that, you shouldn't let the fear of rejection prevent you from really going with what you want. And I think that once I let that go, I got really happy with where I am now.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my choice. Like, I get to stay home, I'm close to home, I have time to do my things, and I'm just very happy because I didn't have to come out of pocket to pay for anything.
I'm really happy with my choice at University of San Diego. Like I said, the culture here is just extremely vibrant. The resources, the opportunities are endless here, and I really do think that it might be a little bit scary going to a private university, like as a first generation student, because many of us only know the UC and CSU public school system, but there's really nothing to be afraid of because there are resources to help you. And I'm really happy about this because even though I was a first year student, in addition to be a first generation student, I've already won a competition, whereas the youngest only undergraduate student for an entrepreneurial competition. It was called the USC's Fowler Business Competition, and I think that alone just shows that they actually care about voices being represented and they care about social issues, because my business is a mental health app and emotional support service for teen girls. And just knowing that on a university level and also on a business executive level that they care about that, they want to invest in that, shows that they're here to really represent everyone that attends their university.
So that's the end of our video, and we hope that it helps you decide which colleges you want to go to and how each college system works. We just want to say thank you and that we hope you enjoyed.
That was all I needed. Just you.